In this video, I'm going to give you the reasoning behind the way that you're eating now is killing your energy, and I'm going to give you the reasons why fasting is actually extremely energy boosting. Now, for those of you that don't know a lot about my story, I wasn't always in shape. I was 280 pounds before, and honestly, being overweight was a big part of my struggle, but probably the bigger part of my struggle was the fact that I had no energy when I was overweight. So I know a lot of guys that get into this slump, okay? They get into the situation where they're already overweight, their body's cortisol levels are through the roof, they're stressed out, they can't move very well, so it's hard to get going and actually losing weight in the first place. So it's extremely difficult. So I realized that rather than putting the cart before the horse and talking about fat burning and activity and exercise, it makes more sense to talk about what the quickest way to actually boost your energy levels is, because that is what it comes down to when it's actually about losing weight in the first place. You have to have energy in order to get moving and to lose weight. So what I've done here is I've created a simple little diagram. Okay, I'm showing you the energy killing aspects of life and the energy boosting aspects of life as pertains to what your diet is probably like now versus what the diet can be like when you're fasting or doing intermittent fasting or just skipping breakfast for that matter. It can make a big difference. And then I'll get into a little bit more of the science. And if you stick with me to the end of the video, I'll explain a 30-day challenge that I'm doing with a grand prize of $1,000 and also being able to work one-on-one with me here in person. So let's talk about this really quick. What are some of the energy killing things that you're doing right now? Well, believe it or not, eating. It's so funny because people think that every time we eat, we're getting energy, right? Carbohydrates, we're all led to believe that as soon as we eat, we have energy. It's super exciting. We're going to have this energy. All of a sudden we eat. It's like marketing throws it in our face. But in reality, eating and digesting takes a ton of energy. It can take up to 60% of our overall energy just to break down food. And people will say, well, that means you should be boosting your metabolism. That means that you should be eating every 2 hours. It doesn't work like that because every time you eat, you're storing body fat, you're spiking your insulin, you're making it a lot easier to store fat. Not all the time, but most of the time. And then you're making yourself tired, so you're running into a bad situation. Whereas fasting actually boosts energy because you're doing the opposite. Believe it or not, when you start fasting, your body creates these things called ketones that have a lot more energy than, say, carbohydrates do. So you actually end up with 2 to 3 times as much energy from fasting than you do from eating every 2 hours. That was one of the biggest mistakes that I was making. I'm serious. It really was a big thing. I was falling victim to wanting to eat every 2 hours. That's just way too much. Another thing that's killing your energy is inflammation. A lot of people don't realize that every time we eat, we have a little bit of an inflammatory response that's happening in our body. But carbohydrates, insulin, glucose are all very inflammatory. And a lot of the things that we're eating are inflammatory. And that's why I like to explain to people, especially in my programs like the Science-Based Six-Pack program, I go into detail on inflammation. But inflammation is a big thing. It's going to slow you down. It slows down the actual ability for the cells to communicate. It slows down the ability for the nervous system to communicate with the brain, for all these things to happen. So it's muddying the water. It's making it foggy, so to speak. Whereas ketones that come when you are fasting are actually anti-inflammatory in and of themselves. Beta-hydroxybutyrate, acetoacetate, those are very powerful anti-inflammatory compounds in the body, and studies have shown that they reduce instances of nuclear factor kappa B and tumor necrosis factor 1 alpha, which are very powerful inflammatory cytokines in the body. Okay, this next one is going to be insulin and your carb crash, which has to do a lot with eating again. Every time you consume carbohydrates, your body secretes insulin, and this insulin takes those carbohydrates and it puts them into the cell. And then what happens is those carbohydrates are in the cell, so they're no longer in the bloodstream. So you have a quick dip in blood sugar that makes you crash, makes your energy crash. That's what's happening there. Now, that wouldn't happen if we weren't constantly spiking our insulin. That's why you hear people talk about that. Insulin this, insulin that. Okay, when you're fasting, you don't have that insulin response because you're not eating enough to secrete insulin. So you don't have these big rises and falls in blood sugar. It's very powerful. Okay, so then we talk about frequent meals, which kind of ties in with all of this. Every time you eat, you have these blood sugar rises and falls. So rather than just having 1 or 2 big swings like this, you're having multiple swings throughout the day. It's like you can't predict when you're going to have energy and when you're not, which makes it very tough to time your workouts. It makes it very tough to, heck, time your life. Okay, now let's talk about really quick what happens with the central nervous system drain and cortisol. This is energy killing, big time. When you're stressed out and when you have high amounts of visceral fat, you have high amounts of cortisol in the body. And what this cortisol does is it elicits a stress response in your body that wastes a lot of energy. So basically, your body is so busy trying to fight the stress and fight the cortisol and try to combat everything and find balance that you end up in a situation where you don't have a lot of energy. It's very bad. That brings us to these 3 on the positive side, which all have to do with the opposite of this. When you are in a fasted state and you're boosting energy, you have high amounts of adrenaline and epinephrine that are flowing through your body. It's like because you're fasting and not eating, your body goes into a situation where it's almost in fight or flight mode to try to find some food. So it releases more adrenaline and epinephrine, which makes you have more energy. You're more alert. You're in fight or flight mode just like you are when you're pumped up at the gym and ready to go. That's the whole idea. And basically these two add up together too. Brain-derived neurotrophic factor, basically that is brain fertilizer. When you're fasting, your brain is creating new cells, and it's a direct result of some of this adrenaline too. Your brain is actually functioning better. You have more mental energy, a lot more clarity. Then you also have more synaptic efficiency. What that means is you have more efficiency between neurons. The neurons are able to communicate a lot better, meaning your brain can send a signal to your body much easier, and your brain can send a signal to a different area of the brain a lot easier. So you have a lot more metabolic efficiency and more nervous system efficiency when you're in a fasted state because you don't have all of these things going on. So anyway, fasting is definitely a way to improve energy, and it's one of the ways that I was able to improve my energy when I was 280 pounds. So it makes a big difference. Now, I do want to share with you this 30-day transformation challenge that I have going on. Okay, right now it's open until next Wednesday, January 3rd. All you have to do is click on the link and you can get my science-based six-pack program and participate in the 30-day transformation challenge. So what we're going to do at the end of 30 days on February 3rd is we're going to identify a winner by voting. So you're going to vote for the winner. You're going to vote for whoever had the best result, whoever had the biggest transformation. And the winner is going to receive $1,000 and also get to come out to either California or Austin, Texas to shoot some video with me. Then the second place winner is going to receive $750. Third place winner will receive $500, and everyone that enters is going to get a supplement of their choice from SixPackAbs.com. So pretty awesome transformation challenge. The whole idea of this is to promote fasting as a way to truly change your life. Now we're going to factor in some additional things aside from just the transformation. We're going to look at how your life actually changed, your overall happiness, how your life has just transformed from maybe being unhappy and overweight and not in the shape that you want to be in, to hopefully being happy, have more energy, and starting to really get the body that you want. So the whole idea is to promote fasting in a very positive way. So if you click on the link, you can join in the contest and you can participate and join me with my science-based six-pack program that gives you the absolute outline of what you need to do when you are intermittent fasting. So I hope to see you there, and I hope that you're going to participate in the challenge, and I hope you win so I get to meet you in person. I will see you there.